9 spine-chilling winter horrors revealed, terrifying true tales to haunt your cold, snowy night. Ellen Matthews trudged through the snow, breathing in the cold air that stung her cheeks like daggers. After another grueling shift at the diner, her body ached, but the little warmth of gratitude for her paycheck pulled her forward. The familiar sight of her narrow home in Winterville loomed ahead when something caught her eye: a sinister set of footprints cutting through the pristine blanket of snow. They hadn't been there earlier. They led from Mrs. Thompson's perfectly manicured porch directly to her door. A chill snaked down Ellen's spine. It had become impossible to ignore the erratic behavior of her neighbor, once known for her delightful cookies and cheerful chats. "Ellen, look!" Katy squeaked, clutching her stuffed rabbit as they crossed the threshold. Her little voice quivered as she glanced back at the window where shadows flickered at the edges. The creeping sensation in Ellen's gut twisted tighter. What were those shadows? Flashes of whispered voices skated along the edges of her mind, through the open window, setting off alarms in her heart. It felt like creeping doom, but her comfort was the suburb neighbors helping neighbors, right? Yet, since Mrs. Thompson's strange mood swings began weeks ago, the warmth of community had devolved into an unsettling coldness. Just then, Katy stepped into her room. "Mommy, I saw someone outside," she called, her voice trembling. Ellen's instinct was to brush off her fears, to soothe her and tell her there were no bogeymen in Winterville, but her heart raced, echoing the whispers around them. She could feel the darkness encroaching, an insidious fear stealing into their lives like a shadow creeping silently against the walls. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As snowflakes danced heavier through the air, Ellen wrestled with the gnawing sense of vulnerability. Late-night whispers felt like icy tendrils curling around her spine. She moved around the home checking locks, but that sense of safety quickly unraveled when the door to the backyard, which she swore she had locked, stood wide open. An overwhelming sense of dread consumed her. Katy's innocent murmurings about a visitor vibrated in her ears, chilling her blood. What kind of visitor? She had demanded, but Katy only stared, wide-eyed and pale, lost in a world where shadows twisted into nightmares, finding the local police not as reassuring as she had hoped only deepened her isolation. "Just tired, ma'am," one officer remarked dismissively. Dismissal echoed in the corners of her mind. Without support, the comfort of community slipped into a nightmare, the very streets she walked growing menacing. She stumbled upon Mrs. Thompson's unsettling connection to whispers, tales of revenge circulating in hushed tones. Each heartbeat thundered in her ears, each tick of the clock felt like a countdown as the storm lashed outside. Ellen stood frozen, caught in the fever pitch of fear with an inkling of dark secrets buried beneath the smiling faces that surrounded her. Had they shared her paranoia, or were they all simply players in this puppet show of horror? As she glanced toward the window, the storm roared, and shadows began slipping closer. A figure, indistinct but watchful, stood just past the veil of snow. The final question loomed, jagged and cold. Could she pry open the friendly facade of Mrs. Thompson before it was too late, or was true danger nestled within the heart of the suburban safety she had cherished? The wind howled outside, rattling the old window panes like desperate fingers trying to claw their way inside. Ellen's heart raced as she forced herself to step closer to the door, the creaking floorboards beneath her feet echoing through the silence. What had Mrs. Thompson done? What secrets lay behind that cheerful smile that now felt like a cruel deception? "Mommy?" Katy's tiny voice interrupted her thoughts, pulling her back into the cozy but suffocating reality of their home. The little girl appeared, clutching her rabbit even tighter, eyes wide with innocent fear. Ellen knelt down to meet her gaze. "It's okay, sweetie. It's just the wind," she reassured, though she knew that wasn't entirely true. The storm outside was raging, but the true storm felt like it was brewing within her very walls. "Why don't we read your favorite book?" As she settled Katie on the couch, stories of knights and dragons failed to provide any comfort. Ellen's mind was still consuming whispers that echoed in the corners of her thoughts. What had Mrs. Thompson called it? A visitor. The fireplace crackled, the only sound slicing through the disquiet, filling the air with a warm scent of burning wood. But even that was a poor shield against the lurking dread. Ellen's eyes wandered towards the window again, peering through the swirling snow. The figure she had seen had vanished, leaving only darkness and swirling white. A sudden thump against the front door jolted her into action. Her pulse quickened as she held her breath. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, glancing at Katie, who nodded, her gaze now glued to the door. Ellen's instinct screamed at her to call the police again, but the memory of their dismissive faces clashed with the need to ensure her daughter's safety. She grabbed her phone, but the light flickered no signal. Panic seeped in like the chill from outside, tightening its grip around her throat. "Stay here," she commanded, her voice steadier than she felt, and went to the door. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the knob. Whatever was out there, the thought of opening the door felt like an invitation to madness. "Mommy?" Katie's voice quivered. One last glance back at her daughter, she reminded herself that she had to protect her. Taking a deep breath, Ellen twisted the knob slowly and pulled the door open, the cold air rushing in like icy fingers. Nothing. Only the swirling snow and howling wind greeted her. But then she noticed the footprints again, fresh and deep, but this time they didn't lead away from the house. They were circling around, making their way back toward her. "Ellen!" came a voice, a rasping whisper that seemed to rise above the storm. It sent shivers crawling up her spine. Squinting into the snow, she stepped outside, the instinct to follow the footprints pulling her forward. "Mommy!" Katie's shout pierced the night, filled with terror as she rushed to her side. A figure emerged from the swirling snow ahead. It was a silhouette, taller than a child, cloaked in shadow. The familiar form froze Ellen in place, a gnawing sense of fear worming its way into her mind. "Ellen," the voice rasped again. "You should have listened." She stumbled backward, clutching Katie tightly, issuing one terrified question, the only thought that mattered, spiraling into the void. "What do you want?" The figure took a step closer, a sinister grin creeping across its darkened face. The air grew colder, the familiar warmth of her home feeling like a distant memory. And then, with a chilling stillness, the figure whispered, "I'm just here for the truth." Just as the panic surged through her, the lights in her home flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. What had she unleashed? And as she gripped Katie tighter and turned to flee, the terrifying weight of dread filled the air. Was the truth more horrific than she could ever imagine? Ellen dashed back towards the house, heart racing, but the shadow right behind her was much closer now. Ellen sprinted towards the house, the cold wrapping around her like a suffocating embrace. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat echoing against the howling wind. Katie was right beside her, but Ellen couldn't look down. She knew that whatever was chasing them was gaining ground. She could feel its presence clawing at her heels. The door felt so far away, the glimmer of light from inside a false beacon. They reached the threshold and Ellen hurled herself inside, tugging Katie in behind her and slamming the door shut. The wind howled outside, but inside, an almost deafening silence prevailed. Ellen leaned against the door, breathless, her back pressed against the wood as if it could shield them. It's okay," she whispered repeatedly, though the quiver in her voice betrayed her. She scanned the dimly lit room, and as her eyes adjusted, she realized the fireplace had died down to embers. Shadows danced along the walls, creating elongated figures that seemed to mock her fear. "Mommy?" Katie's small voice broke the silence, and Ellen knelt, hugging her close. "What's happening?" "I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart," she murmured, brushing Katie's hair with trembling fingers. But her mind raced. Was it the same figure from outside? What truth was it searching for? Panic churned into desperation. We need to find a way to keep safe. She glanced around, spotting a heavy metal poker by the hearth. Grabbing it, she felt a small reservoir of courage seep back into her. Stay close, Katie, she instructed, her voice firmer now. We'll stay together. As she made her way through the darkened rooms, the oppressive silence throbbed around her. The shadows seemed to stretch and pulse as if alive, and every creak of the house sent jolts of fear scuttling up her spine. They could be anywhere, that thing, waiting to pounce. She peered into the living room, the atmosphere thick and cloying. Nothing moved but the flickering shadows. And then, a low whisper wafted through the air, barely audible but unmistakable. Ellen, her blood ran cold. It was a voice she recognized, a memory wrapped in dread. Mrs. Thompson. You should have listened. Ellen clenched the poker, her knuckles white, eyes darting frantically. Had Mrs. Thompson summoned this horror? She felt the walls closing in the cheerful woman with her polite smiles, hiding something monstrous. Mommy? Katie tugged on her sleeve, pulling her back from the edge of despair. Ellen remembered the backyard, the darkness, the pouring snow. She could find out more, she had to. We have to go to the back door. Now. But what if it's out there? Katie protested, panic flooding her small voice. It'll be safer than here, I promise. Ellen urged, guiding her towards the back of the house. They moved quietly, the creaking floorboards groaning underfoot in protest. The back door loomed ahead, but in her gut, a dread pulsated. What if something was waiting outside? Reaching the door, Ellen hesitated, her hand hovering over the knob. It felt wrong to open it, to face the unknown. But the whisper echoed again, luring her with unanswered questions. In that suspended moment, a loud bang reverberated through the house, rattling the windows. The front door flew open with a crash, and an icy gust flooded in, darkness spilling across the room. Ellen grabbed Katie, pulling her behind her, heart racing with a primal fear. The shadow moved in, claiming the space. Ellen, it rasped, voice more defined now, familiar yet twisted, clinging to the poker like a lifeline. Ellen shouted, "Get away from us." But as she looked into the dark, the figure twisted into something she could barely recognize. Are you ready for the truth? It demanded, the intimacy chilling her to the bone. The walls trembled, and the air went heavy with despair. Ellen's mind spiraled. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for Katie, for the truth that might consume them both. A flash of white outside snagged her attention, another figure, smaller, moving through the storm, mimicking their own. Panic clawed at her throat once. More. No, no. Not again. Could there be more lurking behind truths long buried? Was she ready to face whatever malignancy had engulfed her life? The air crackled with an electric tension as the shadows closed in. She needed to act, but what choice would she make? Run further into the dark, or confront her fears head-on? The answer lingered somewhere in the storm outside, waiting for her to uncover all that was hidden. Ellen's breath caught in her throat as the shadow coiled closer. It shimmered, just on the edges of recognition, its form shifting like smoke melding with the darkness. Are you ready for the truth? It pressed again, voice a cruel thread wrapping around her mind. Stay behind me, Katie. Ellen commanded, her heart racing. She gripped the poker tightly, feeling the cold metal press into her palm, grounding her in the moment. The whispers were louder now, a chorus of voices entwined with the howling wind outside, spiraling her thoughts into chaos. What do you want? She shouted, desperation fueling her. The figure seemed to draw closer, its face obscured but the familiarity clawing at her memory. You know what I want, it hissed, the air thick with a tension that made her skin prickle. A flash of movement caught her eye, a flurry of white snow against the dim light. Ellen turned, panic flaring. Katie, we need to go. But Mommy, what about the shadows? Katie's small hands fisted in the fabric of Ellen's coat, her eyes wide with fear. "We'll be safe in the backyard," Ellen said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "We need to find the truth before it finds us." Katie nodded, though her expression suggested she felt anything but safe. They darted toward the back door, each footfall a reminder of the encroaching danger. Ellen twisted the knob, the door creaking open as a gust of frigid air snaked inside. It felt like the breath of the very darkness they feared. The backyard was swallowed in deep shadows, but the moonlight peeked through the clouds like a weak promise of safety. The white of the untouched snow glimmered, a deceptive tranquility that felt almost mocking in its chill. Ellen stepped outside, holding the poker like a shield. "Stay right by me," she instructed, scanning the yard. Each tree carved sharp silhouettes against the sky, branches reaching out like claws. "What do you need to find, Mommy?" Katie whispered, her voice barely audible over the chilling wind. Ellen hesitated. Her eyes drifted toward the old oak tree, the same one Mrs. Thompson had often gazed at with a yearning look, speaking of memories buried beneath the snow. But every word felt tainted by the figure that haunted her now. What was hidden? What truth had never been unearthed? "I don't know yet, baby," she murmured. "But I think whatever it is, it's tied to that tree." Suddenly, a sharp creak echoed, a noise not from above but beneath the snow. Ellen's heart leapt. "Did you hear that?" she asked, sliding a glance toward Katie, whose eyes were wide, glistening with a mix of fear and curiosity. "It sounded like something is underground," Katie said, her voice trembling. Ellen's mind raced. If something was buried there, could it be part of the truth they needed? She felt drawn to it, yet every instinct screamed to run. No, we can't stay here," she said, pulling Katie back, forcing her eyes away from the tree. "We have to," but before she could finish, the whisper of voices pulsed in the air, more distinct, rising from the depths of the ground, twisting around her like serpents. "Ellen, you've been chosen. Don't turn away." The ground beneath the oak trembled, snow shifting like a blanket pulled away. Shivers ran down Ellen's spine. "We need to go," she shouted, tugging Katie back toward the house, her pulse racing, but as they turned, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing. It stepped closer, illuminated by a brief flicker of lightning in the dark sky. Ellen froze, her breath catching. "Why do you run from the truth, Ellen?" it inquired, voice an echo with an otherworldly resonance. The chilling realization struck her. It wasn't just a creature of darkness. It was someone she once knew, and they possessed not only the knowledge of her past but the answers she desperately sought, and suddenly, the weight of secrets buried in the ground, and the danger that now loomed over them became all too real. What had she done to summon this terror? As Ellen and Katie stood paralyzed, the storm raged on, a flicker of hope tangled with fear. The truth awaited, but what would it take to reach it? With a deep, shaky breath, Ellen whispered, maybe it's time to find out." The shadows pressed closer, the call of truth beckoning in a sinister melody as she took a step forward into the unknown. Ellen's heart thundered as the figure loomed before them, its form both familiar and monstrous. The rain began to pelt down, sheets of ice-cold water soaking through her clothes, blending with the chilling wind. "Katie, inside, now!" she barked, yanking her daughter against her. The urgency in her voice sliced through the paralyzing fear that threatened to engulf them, but Katie wouldn't budge, her skin pale and her gaze locked onto the figure. "Mommy, it's him," she whispered, voice trembling like a fragile leaf caught in a storm. Ellen's mind raced. Him? Who did Katie mean? The storm surged, obscuring the outline of the shadow, but the voice resonated through the cold air. "You've always known, yet you chose to bury it." The old oak tree shuddered, branches whispering secrets of the past. The ground beneath it pulsed, as if alive, sending ripples of fear up her spine. "It isn't safe," Ellen cried, but a heavy weight anchored her feet to the ground. "Mommy, don't you see? Katie took a step forward, unwittingly drawing closer to whatever horror was unearthing itself from the snow. Yes, my friend. No. Ellen's voice broke. You don't know what you're saying. We have to go. But the moment dripped with dread and inevitability. The figure took a step forward, shrouded beneath the stinging rain and darkness. You kept your daughter from the truth, it murmured, every word a venomous caress, and it is only you who can reveal it. The memory of the past twisted in Ellen's mind once. There had been laughter, innocence, and warmth in this house. But that was before the whispers began, before the shadows were birthed from her own denial. She had buried memories, hoping they would stay hidden, but the truths were clawing their way back. Frozen terror gripped her heart. Had she endangered Katie by sheltering her from it all? Lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating the figure. It wasn't a stranger, it was the face of a man she once loved, but lost to the chaos of her own choices. You can't ignore your past forever, Ellen, he said, an eerily calm reflection of emotions she'd long buried. Stay back. She shouted, brandishing the poker, but her hands trembled. All the love, fear, and loss swirled around them in a tempest of memories. Katie will suffer for your sins, he said, voice low and malicious. You know this is true. Ellen felt the ground shift beneath her feet, icy fingers reaching up from below, exposing long-buried truths, secrets entangled with shadows. I will protect her. Ellen screamed, though her determination felt like paper against the storm. The shadows swarmed closer, encircling them, the cold seeping deeper into their bones. You can't protect her from what's inside you, the figure taunted, nor the truth buried beneath this tree buried in you. Panic surged. This was all wrong. She had to get Katie away. Run, sweetheart. Get inside. But Katie was already drawn to the figure, captivated and unafraid. He wants to show me, Mommy. Ellen could only watch in horror as her daughter stepped closer, driven by an eerie magnetism. The ground shook violently, the snow exploding as something clawed its way forth from the earth. A small, skeletal hand burst through, grasping at the air, frost-covered and twisted, bringing with it an overwhelming scent of decay, the smell of darkness long buried. No! Ellen lunged forward, her heart in chaos, the poker slipping from her fingers as everything around her spiraled into chaos. Katie! As she stumbled into the edge of the shadows, the secrets flooded back, raw and relentless. The figure morphed in the light, and Ellen could see now, truly see. The truth was a beast, hungry for blood and promises broken. Suddenly, the world around her began to collapse, tornado winds whirling as voices screamed her name. Darkness swallowed the backyard whole, the truth tangling around her like creeping vines, pulling her into the abyss. Inside, stillness echoed, their home transformed into a mausoleum of memories and horrors from which there would be no escape. Did she possess the strength to unearth the past alongside her daughter? With the storm crashing around them, Ellen faced the truth. What have I done? She whispered as the shadows reached for them, demanding to be acknowledged. And just as Katie opened her mouth to speak, a piercing shout cut through, the kind that would echo through the winds and send shivers down any spine. Ellen! A voice, deep and unfamiliar, surged from the depth of chaos, signaling the arrival of revelations yet to come. What awaited her in this dark embrace remained unseen, but Ellen knew one thing: they were not alone. Ellen's heart raced, a drumbeat against the rising tide of terror surrounding them. Drenched to the bone, she felt the chilling fingers of fear claw deeper into her chest as the storm raged on. The voice that pierced the chaos, echoing her name, seemed to vibrate within her very soul. Who are you?" she stammered, her eyes scanning the relentless darkness that enveloped them. The figure, once an image of lost affection, now morphed into something grotesque, shadows distorting its edges. Ellen's vision blurred, a mix of rain and dread spilling into her despair. "You're not him anymore," she gasped, disbelief trickling into defiance. But Katie's voice broke through the battering panic. "Mommy, it's okay. He's just here to help." Her daughter's words were like ice shards piercing Ellen's resolve, a bond drawn from fear and fascination. Why was Katie not terrified? Why did she trust this apparition? It's not okay. We have to leave. Ellen insisted, her voice now piercing through the murky fog of the storm. The cadaverous hand protruding from the earth gripped Katie's attention, its tiny fingers unfurling, revealing long-forgotten secrets that thrummed with energy. Ellen, the figure rasped, advancing slowly. She must know the truth, before it's too late. Every inch of Ellen screamed for her daughter to step back. She took a step forward herself, fighting against the tug of old memories. Stop. Stay away from her. But she was driven by a helpless force, the pull of whatever darkness seethed between her past and present overpowering. The shadows writhed, swirling like dark smoke, and the trees whispered the names of old sins long buried. You think you can protect her forever? The figure continued, its tone soothing yet tainted, like honey laced with poison. She's part of this story, just as much as you are. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently, shaking all sense of reality. The walls of her home felt miles away, the connection to safety ripping apart. Lightning split the sky again, exposing the skeletal hand that reached higher, as if grasping for breath. With each heartbeat, Ellen felt crumbled walls of her mind teetering, threatening to spill forth whatever dragons she had kept chained. Katie! Ellen cried desperately, anger boiling in her throat. Get away from him, now! But Katie stepped forward, her eyes glazed over as though she were in a trance. Mommy, I have to see, she whispered, her innocence like a blade puncturing Ellen's heart. Fear twisted inside Ellen. Was this the inevitable end of her defenses, with Katie marching into the very arms of danger? I can't lose you too! She roared. Ellen charged forward, but the shadows coiled around her feet like vines, anchoring her in place. Lightning illuminated their surroundings once more, revealing a twisted visage of the figure that mirrored her worst fears: betrayal, failure, love lost to the abyss. You've let her linger in your darkness, he rasped, and I'll make sure she knows all of it together. A guttural scream echoed through the night, a cry that felt like a part of her breaking free. Was that her voice? The ground lurched, splitting wide beneath them, expelling dark mist and bone-strewn memories into the cold air. No, no, no! Ellen gasped, her legs flailing in panic, trying to find footing, but despair sapped her strength. Katie's haunting smile juxtaposed with the grotesque anger of the figure sent shivers down Ellen's spine. It's time, Mommy, her daughter called, reaching out toward the darkness that beckoned like a siren's song. Ellen's breath caught, the reality of it all crashing down. You can't, Katie. You can't. Something shrieked within the shadows, a long-buried scream clawing from the underworld, dragging all emotions into the swirling night. As darkness threatened to swallow them whole, Ellen understood. The figure was tied to her, yet made flesh of her dearest fears. Could she face him and end this cycle, or would she lose Katie forever to the shadows? Then, another voice broke through the fray, sharp and familiar, a realization that struck like lightning. Speeding through the sky. Ellen. We have to go. But Ellen stood frozen, her heart tearing between the obligation to protect and the horrifying truth she might have to face. Was she ready for the judgments of yesterday? Would facing the darkness bring light for her daughter or deepen the shadows of despair? The storm roared louder, and with each lightning strike, the decision ticked closer. Would she embrace her past or watch her child slip away into the night? The ground beneath Ellen quaked, sending waves of fear rippling through her. The shadows thrashed like wild animals, and as the figure moved closer, she felt the air thicken, electrocuting her resolve. You have to save her. The old voice of her mother suddenly echoed in her mind, mingling with the howling wind. Echoes of her childhood lessons about fear, bravery, and the monsters that swirled in the dark gripped her thoughts, tightening her chest. Mommy. Katie's voice pierced the storm again, innocent yet chilling. The girl was stepping deeper into the dark, fingers straining, reaching toward the skeletal hand clawing up from the abyss. Ellen's heart thudded wildly, each pulse matching the chaos outside. "Stop!" Ellen yelled, clutching her head as though she could will the fearful memories away. This isn't the truth. He's lying. But how could she convince her daughter? How could she break the hold the figure had on them both? Scrambling against the sinewy darkness around her, Ellen fought to break free. She was losing her grip on reality. The branches above twisted like gnarled fingers, dripping with an oppressive weight as they bowed before the figure. Through it all, the spectral visage grinned, eyes glimmering with a sense of triumph. "Together, you can finally know," it hissed, voice like shards of glass scraping against her soul. "Together, you can finish the story." "No!" Ellen cried, desperation turning into rage. The hesitant grip of her own fears began to morph into a fire brewing in her chest. "I want to let you take her." A clap of thunder resonated, drowning out the howling wind. In her fury, some ancient instinct flickered to life, a defiance born from the depths of a mother's love. Ellen mustered every ounce of strength she possessed and yanked free from the shadows that enveloped her ankles. She threw herself in front of Katie, heart pounding hard enough she feared it would burst. "You want to take her from me. You can't use her against me anymore." The words surged forth, cracking the air around them, weaving through the tumult of rain and lighting. The figure faltered, an expression of disbelief darting across its twisted features. "Don't you want to remember? To know the truth?" It challenged, a hint of uncertainty creeping into its tone, a flicker in the malevolence. "Remember? I want to forget. I want her to be free of this nightmare." Ellen spat, thrusting her arms out, shielding her daughter against the encroaching darkness. But just as she fell into an unfamiliar momentum of determination, a gnawing fear clawed back at her heart. What was she inviting by pushing the figure away? Would their refusal only summon something worse? Lightning crackled fiercely above them, illuminating fleeting shadows behind the figure. Ellen felt a cold chill seep through her bones, stronger than the tempest around them, as if the very air was pulled into the abyss. Mommy, Katie's voice trembled, confusion weaving through her innocence. Ellen turned, her eyes meeting her daughter's doe-like gaze, a chance to cling to the last fragment of hope. In that moment, she realized Katie wasn't just a pawn. She was fierce too. "Everything you did was to protect her, Ellen. Is it too late?" The figure hissed, that serpentine voice venomous with a twisted edge of truth. Ellen bit back her fear, breathing in the scent of the rain-soaked soil. "It's never too late, not yet," she murmured under her breath, steeling herself to become the barrier between Katie and the past's grim grasp. "We will face this together. You're not alone." Suddenly, the shadows roared, the sound closing in, a cacophony of dread. The earth crackled again, and memories of betrayal and loss surged forth, faces of the past swirling like a cyclone around them. With every flash of lightning, she saw them, her father, her brother, lost in shadows of regret. They clawed their desperate whispers into the storm. As the ground trembled once more, a dark fissure ripped open before them, expanding like a gaping mouth yearning to swallow them whole. Ellen grasped Katie's hand tightly. "Hold on to me." Would they plunge into the darkness together, or could she pull Katie back before it was too late? The storm erupted in fury, rallying against her, as the figure bore down on them once more, ready to unveil secrets meant to tear them apart. Just as the ground quaked violently beneath their feet, Ellen felt the figure's fingers stretch toward her, whispering promises of unimaginable truths. She took a breath. Would the truth save them, or would it splinter their lost worlds into shadowy fragments? "Ellen." Another voice called, louder, desperate. It was a voice she recognized, and it sent a fresh wave of horror crashing against her resolve, one that could mean salvation or doom. She pivoted, ready to face whatever lay ahead, but was she prepared to confront what was left behind? Ellen's heart pounded in her chest as she turned toward the voice. She felt a rush of adrenaline and dread. The storm grew louder, like 1,000 angry spirits wailing through the trees. "Who's there?" she shouted, Her voice lost among the chaos. The figure hesitated, drawn into the shadows. The flickering lightning cast a sharp glow on its face, revealing a grotesque mixture of familiarity and horror. The gnarled features twisted in a way that made her stomach churn. "You cannot escape the truth, Ellen. You invited me," it hissed softly, its words dripping with malice. "Shut up." Ellen screamed, and the words erupted from her like a wildfire. "You're nothing. You can't have us." Another flash of lightning illuminated a woman behind the figure, her face pale and gaunt. Ellen squinted through the rain, fear and recognition sparking. It was her mother, a memory she had buried deep. "Ellen," the woman lingered, her voice like an echo from the past. "You must listen." But Ellen shook her head violently. "No, this is a trick." She could feel the world around her bending, twisting the edges of reality. The shadows loomed closer, waiting to pull her in. Katie's hand was cold in hers, and she clutched tighter, willing herself to stay rooted in the moment. "Mommy, I'm scared," Katie whimpered, her voice trembling against the turbulent winds. With every shiver, Ellen could sense the weight of dread pressing against them, threatening to crush their fragile bond. "Stay close," Ellen shouted, panic seeping into her voice. The last words of her mother echoed in her mind. "Stay in the light." The darkness seemed to breathe, pulsing like a predator. Each inhale tugged at Ellen, a siren-esque call luring her toward its depths. But she stood firm, staring at the apparition before her. "You're not real. None of this is real. Then why do you feel it? Why does your past haunt you?" The figure leaned closer, and the echoes of laughter rang hollowly in the air. It was a sound that made Ellen's skin crawl, a reminder that faded faces were tied to her very being, laced with the threads of lost memories. The ground heaved violently, and Ellen stumbled, nearly losing her footing. But Katie was still there, her small hand clasped tightly in hers, grounding Ellen back to what mattered. She felt her daughter's fear like an electric shock, sparking her own resolve. "We won't fall. Not today." Guided by sheer will, Ellen stepped toward the figure, anger bursting forth like a dam breaking. She could feel the shadows recoiling from her hissed words, the brightness of her defiance piercing through the dark. "I will know the truth. But I won't let you use it against us." The shadows flickered, and in that moment, uncertainty darted across the figure's twisted face. "You think you can face the truth? That it won't consume you?" Suddenly, the fissure in the earth expanded wider, a swirling void beckoning with promises of dark revelations. With an anguished cry, the figure lunged for Katie. "Come to me, child. Embrace your destiny." Ellen's blood ran cold, instincts flaring. "No!" She threw herself between her daughter and the terrifying grasp. The atmosphere hung heavy with tension, swirling in a frenzy that made it hard to breathe. "You'll have to take me first." Something shifted in the air, a chilling silence settled as if the storm paused momentarily to witness her resolve. The shadows seemed to stutter, their advance faltering. A fleeting hope surged within her. Could she turn the tide? But before she could fathom what would happen next, a deafening crack sounded, splitting the air like thunder. The ground trembled violently again, and the shadows roared back to life, fangs bared, seeking retribution. "Ellen!" Katie cried, and the terror in her voice broke through the storm's roiling chaos. Ellen grasped her tighter, their bond forming an unbreakable shield. Whatever lay ahead, they would face together, honor the truth, or face the dark. Then, as if summoned by their fierce resolve, bright lights flared in the storm around them, illuminating a path. But whose path was it? Ellen squinted against the light, uncertainty hanging thick like fog. Could she trust this beacon of hope, or was it another lie in disguise? "Let us go," she urged Katie, feeling the air shift, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for the next step into the unknown. Would they find salvation, or would the truth unravel them? Ellen hesitated, the light flickering like a heartbeat, steady yet straining. It danced around them, cold and blinding. Katie's grip tightened, fear radiating through her small hand. Every instinct screamed that the shadows lurked, waiting for their moment to strike. "Stay behind me," Ellen ordered, summoning what courage she had left. The roaring wind clawed at her, a reminder of the darkness ever hungry for their souls. Heart racing, she stepped forward, feeling the tug of the void beneath their feet demanding to pull them under. The moment they moved, the storm surged again, clouds writhing above like colossal beasts tangled in rage. Each lightning strike fractured the sky, illuminating glimpses of twisted forms just beyond the periphery. Ellen couldn't tell if they were shadows or memories creeping into her mind. Every flicker felt like a taunt, a threat to drown them in despair. Then the lights flickered again, revealing a path ahead, a road lined with monstrous shapes tangled in the underbrush. It felt alive, a pulse beneath the soles of her shoes, vibrating with sinister intent. "We need to go now," she urged, voice wavering. Katie whimpered, eyes wide and terrified, torn between the haunted whispers of the past and the warmth of Ellen's presence. "But what if? There's no time," Ellen snapped, propelling them forward. With each step, the shadows seemed to writhe, twisting in anticipation, slithering closer to them like hungry snakes. The laughter echoed again, louder this time, drowning out the thunder. Her mother's face flitted at the edge of her vision, a mere specter urging her onward. As they moved, Ellen felt the ground shift beneath her, a tremor that gnawed at her balance. "Stay close," she shouted again, pushing through the thickening fog of dread. The air turned dense with whispers, growing into a cacophony of voices that clawed at her sanity. "You can't escape, Ellen. You've awoken the beast." With those words ringing in her ears, something unseen lunged from the darkness, a blur of movement that was here one moment and gone the next. Ellen spun around, her breath hitching in her throat. "What was that?" "Mommy!" Katie shrieked, her voice cracking, and Ellen felt a jolt of ice shoot through her veins. "Hold on to me," Ellen commanded, pulling Katie closer as terror brimmed within her. They pressed on, each step feeling heavier, as if the shadows were grasping at her ankles, dragging her down into despair. Suddenly, from the shadows, the figure re-emerged, the grotesque twist of familiarity morphing into something more monstrous with every heartbeat. It laughed, hollow yet rich with malice, mocking her. "You think you can defy the truth? You invited me here, you brought this upon yourselves. Leave us alone." Ellen shouted, the words igniting a spark of hope in her chest. The light pulsated around them, flickering with newfound intensity, like a fire threatened by winds yet refusing to die. But the ground roared, and another fissure opened widely beneath them, a maw consuming everything in its vicinity. Ellen squeezed Katie's hand, heart pounding furiously as she pulled her away from the edge. The shadows screeched in protest, clawing at the earth to reclaim what they lost. "Stay with me. We can't look back." Ellen could feel the temperature plummeting, a cold creeping into her bones that felt neither natural nor of this world. We have to break free, before the truth finds us," she yelled, charging ahead into the light. And then, from behind, she felt the darkness surge, drawing closer, almost tender in its pursuit. The laughter grew louder, echoing through the storm like a twisted chant. The shadows were relentless, a tide pulling her back. When she finally reached the glowing path, it shimmered, a beacon of hope and fear. But was it a way out or a deeper trap? "Where does it go?" Katie whispered, anxiety woven through her words as she peeked around her mother. "I don't know," Ellen admitted, her heart heavy. "But we have to find out. It's the only chance we have." The road beckoned, iridescent and shimmering, promising safety or perhaps doom. "Let us go," Ellen shouted, and as they stepped into the light, a bone-chilling scream shattered the night. Ellen whirled around to confront the darkness, but only silence answered back. What loomed behind them was gone. But something new breathed in the shadows, a weight of malice hanging heavily in the air. "Mommy, what just happened?" Katie asked, wide-eyed and trembling. I don't know, Ellen breathed, dread pooling in her stomach once more. As the lights flickered again, the shadows whispered their secrets, and Ellen felt a sense of foreboding. They had chosen a path, but what awaited them at the end? Would it be salvation or something far worse? Ellen squeezed Katie's hand tighter, the warmth of her young palm a lifeline in the swirling cold. We have to keep moving, sweetheart, she said, her voice a whisper against the ominous backdrop of the storm. The path shimmered beneath their feet, flickering like a heartbeat, alternating between light and shadow. Where are we going? Katie asked, eyes round like saucers filled with fear. I don't know yet. But we'll find a way out of this, Ellen reassured her, though doubt gnawed at her mind. The darkness had promised the truth, but the truth was steeped in terror. As they walked deeper into the flickering light, the shadows fell back, whispering in corners, retreating as if intimidated by the luminous path they tread. Yet in that space of eerie truce, Ellen's heart thundered wildly. Every step felt like a test, every breath a challenge against the harrowing truth that loomed just behind, a reminder of the figure that had stirred her past into a present nightmare. Mommy, please, Katie's voice trembled again, pulling Ellen from the depths of her thoughts. What if the truth is scary? Ellen knelt down to eye level, brushing a damp strand of hair from Katie's forehead. The truth can be scary, but we can face it together. You're stronger than you know. She took a breath, the words barely holding back the tide of her own fear. We've got each other, and that means we'll be okay. Promise? Katie's earnest gaze pierced through Ellen's resolve. I promise, she said softly, drawing her daughter closer, feeling the warmth ignite a flicker of courage within her. The light dimmed as they reached the edge of the path, revealing an old wooden door, weathered and cracked as if time had forgotten it. The shadows lingered at its threshold, their whispers growing louder to fill the silence, urging Ellen to uncover what lay behind. This is it, she whispered. The truth is right there. Are we ready? Katie whispered, that innocent yet steady gaze searching Ellen's heart. Ellen steeled herself, fear coiling in her stomach. We have to be together. As she pushed the door open, it groaned, an ominous creaking sound, echoing against the wind. Beyond lay a room dimly lit, walls adorned with framed memories, faded photographs, pressing her into a past she had fought to forget. Each face, a ghost, leapt out at her, including the figure that emerged from the darkness, Mrs. Thompson, her neighbor, caught in a frame, smiling brightly. But the expression didn't match the sinister feeling threading through Ellen's mind. Suddenly, the air thickened with tension. You see, Ellen? The figure whispered, re-emerging from behind the door, a grotesque shadowy version of the smiling woman. It's all connected, your past, the choices you've made to shield her. What do you want from us? Ellen cried out, the words filled with desperation as she stepped in front of Katie protectively. Only to reveal the truth, the figure purred, drawing closer. You have the power to break the cycle of fear for good. You must decide you want to hold tight to those secrets that threaten you, or let the darkness go. Katie's grip loosened a little, the shadows calling to her innocent heart. Mommy, I'm not scared anymore. I want to know. Ellen's heart dropped, pulse quickening with dread. No, darling. I don't want you to see. Then it starts with you, the figure hissed, eyes burning through Ellen's resolve. Embrace your truth, and you can free her spirit, or live shackled in the turmoil of your own making. Choose. The weight of the choice bore down on Ellen like a stone, suffocating and heavy. Memories flooding back, a childhood marred by her father's volatility, her own guilt wrapped around her decisions, shadows creeping closer with each agonizing heartbeat. Lightning split the air outside, cutting through the darkness. Ellen felt Katie step closer, braving whatever nightmare was to come. Let us do this together, Mommy, she whispered, trust shining in her eyes. With a deep, shaky breath, Ellen managed to meet the figure's gaze. I'd rather face the truth than let my daughter drown in shadows, she said, the words steadying her heartbeat. Clenching Katie's hand tightly, she opened her heart, letting the jumbled memories spill forth. Trapped moments of anger and regret followed, a floodgate bursting, the truth washing over them. "Let us end this," she shouted, her voice breaking the heavy silence. "I'm done hiding." Light poured from Ellen's heart, an intense brightness expanding like stars against a dark canvas. Shadows shrieked, trying to claw their way back, but as the light intensified, they recoiled, twisting and disappearing into nothingness. Mrs. Thompson's figure shimmered, then fractured. The secrets bound in the photographs scattered like dust, revealing a once vibrant community she'd lost to fear. "The truth is not meant to harm, but to heal," the figure whispered, ethereal and distant, melting away with the shadows. Ellen felt a cathartic release, warmth flooding her. The past no longer loomed behind them but instead illuminated a path forward. She looked at Katie, whose eyes sparkled with understanding. "Mommy, we did it." Katie beamed, her innocence rekindled, the storm outside fading. "Yes, we did." Ellen's heart swelled with newfound strength. Together, they had faced the darkness, and in embracing their truth, had carved a beacon of hope. As they stepped out into the calm after the storm, Ellen felt the fresh air wash over them. "Promise me, Katie, we'll always talk about our fears." "Promise." Katie giggled, taking her mother's hand. Looking back, Ellen realized that in facing what haunted her, she had not only freed herself but also her daughter. As the sun peeked through the clouds, a warmth washed over them, like a gentle reassurance that everything would be all right, and with every step into the light, Ellen knew they had emerged victorious from their own haunting, a testament to the power of truth and love over darkness. Now it's your turn to reflect. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to help us feed the algorithm and keep the magic going. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.